Yeah, before we start.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Commission of Agriculture and Rural Development. This meeting is being conducted in person as well as electronically to provide for greater public attendance and participation. For those of you joining remotely, please mute your microphone unless speaking to assist with technology being used for today's meeting. This meeting is being recorded pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. And I will call this meeting to order. And Angie, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Trey,
Here.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Here.
Commissioner King Maxwood,
Here.
Commissioner Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Wu.
Here.
All members are present.
And we all got a chance to look at today's meeting agenda. And is there a motion to adopt today's agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And approval for last month's meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from October 11th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. In our packets, we were also given a proposed meeting schedule for 2024. Is there a motion to approve that meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Commissioner comments and travel. Can we start with Julia?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I traveled from Central Lake in Antrim County this morning. As far as agriculture in Northwest Michigan, apple farmers are hopefully have wrapped up their season. It was a very, very large apple crop this year. For many of us, the largest ever. And it's coming off of a very large crop last year. So 2 back-to-back large crops is very unexpected. Quality has been good so far. We hope that the quality stays good in storage. But many farmers, I think, were having trouble getting boxes, getting labor, having a market for their apples. So, of course, struggles with the bounty. So that's all I have to share. Thank you.
Good morning. Traveled from Grand Rapids this morning. It's been a great fall for Michigan products. As Juliet mentioned, there have been a lot of apples. We've been able to market and sell quite a few of those at some great retails to customers. I'm excited to kind of turn to more of those Thanksgiving commodities and get a lot of those Michigan-grown potatoes and onions out on the shelf. Thanks.
As for us, we just finished our community-supported agriculture program, which kind of marks the end of our season. We're still growing. We have wholesale accounts. We were able to plant all of our garlic yesterday in anticipation for today's rain. I was able to travel not through MDARD, but to North Carolina and visit a friend's farm out there, and it was eye-opening, and I'm going to take some of the practices that he's using onto our farm. And then for commissioner travel, none other than for today.
Good morning. I drove here from northwest Shiawassee County, where our farm is located. We finished our soybeans 2 weeks ago today, and we're kind of getting started with corn. I also had the opportunity to attend the potluck that MDARD had yesterday in their offices and the award ceremony. For those of you that weren't able to attend, you really missed a great event. The food was fantastic. If all of you guys decide to stop working for MDARD, you could start cooking at restaurants or something. The food was really good. And the award ceremony was very interesting. It appears as though you've got a really great group of people working at MDARD, and I'm happy to be associated with them. Thank you.
Good morning. So I probably had the shortest commute. I just came from MSU after a very nice breakfast, like the Michigan Agribusiness Association breakfast, where it was nice to see a number of you. Recently, we've had 2 conferences at MSU relevant to agriculture and the environment. One had to do with PFAS in the environment and issues with regard to food contamination, water contamination, and other issues. And then earlier this week, we had an Ethics of Water symposium in the Broad College of Business, where I had the chance to speak about ways that we could conserve water while maintaining yields for rice production in general. In December, I'll have 2 business trips coming up. One is to the Harvard Business School, and that is a conference on agribusiness dedicated to Ray Goldberg, who is an agribusiness professor there. And the other is the Society for Risk Analysis meeting in December. I'm the incoming president of the Society for Risk Analysis, so I'm running this meeting, and I'm a little nervous about that, but we'll see how that goes. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Is there a motion to approve the commissioner travel?
So moved.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and now we have a retirement resolution, which we're going to run a little differently today. And we are going to have Ben Schramm come and read the retirement resolution.
Oh, cool. He got an award yesterday. Oh, that must be his pops.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioners, for this opportunity to honor a fantastic MDARD employee today. I've been coached up to not read the entire resolution, which I think was probably a responsible note. But I am going to read a little bit of it and then just maybe share a little bit. The Michigan Commission of Agriculture and Rural Development is pleased to honor Kevin Van Giesen upon his retirement from the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development on December 31st, 2023. It's coming up, man. Whereas the Michigan Commission of Agriculture and Rural Development thanks Kevin Van Giesen for his 20-plus years of dedicated and loyal service to the state of Michigan, the Department of Treasury, and the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, the forestry industry, and to the people of the state of Michigan. The commission joins Kevin's friends and colleagues in wishing him a long and happy retirement and great success with future endeavors. There are a lot of really nice sentiments in this resolution. I think probably what stands out to me the most, Kevin, is what we'll miss the most is the relationships and trust that you've been able to establish with our landowners participating in our MDARD's forestry programs, as well as just the level of expertise that you've been able to provide our team from your background with Treasury, your background in insurance. So we're really happy for you. We're excited, but hey, we're going to miss you.
Thank you so much. I'm scared and excited both. I'm honored to receive this and to have my last years be working at MDARD. It's been an honor and a pleasure. It's one big family, and I'm going to miss that. I just can't say enough about the MDARD family and the honor of being here. So thank you so much.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
A long career.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will move on to the director's report.
Sure. Busy last few weeks.
We need to move to approve that one, Andy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Is there a motion to approve the retirement resolution for Kevin Van Giesen?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
I thought we were going to be able to keep him now if we just didn't approve that. I mean, retirement's
That was
off.
tricky.
Yeah. No, thanks, Andy. Busy couple weeks at the department, as Commissioner Williams mentioned. Yesterday was the annual potluck and awards ceremony. The governor was gracious enough to stop by and honor us with her attendance. Certainly a fun event. A lot of outstanding contributions from employees that is great to recognize. A lot of work on behalf of the MDR team of putting something like that together. It's no small feat. So certainly great to be a part of it, and really, as Kevin speaks to it, there's a lot of really valuable culture and a lot of pride in the fact of what folks do on a daily basis. So it's important to be able to take a few minutes to recognize it on days like yesterday and days like today with an important resolution here. So continues to be an inspiring place to work. Frankly, probably too many meetings and different places to list out. Always impactful to be around seeing the work that MDARD is doing. MSU was running a meeting on regenerative agriculture this morning that's certainly really important. The deputy secretary was in town last Friday talking about some of the investments that USDA is making in rural America, and frankly how well aligned they are with a lot of the work that MDARD is doing on a daily basis, some of which we'll have before us here later today. Department continues to grow. We've recently announced 4 bureau directors. Jamie here with us today, who's accepted one of those roles. Grateful to have her continued leadership in the department. We will be actively working on backfilling some positions and continuing to staff up. We've got some really important new positions coming on board. We're advertising for a Regen Ag Program Specialist ongoing. We are advertising for a chief scientist. We're standing up an entire office dedicated towards scientific expertise in the department and really working on this intersection between policy and research and just having a greater capacity in the department to work on really important scientific issues like emerging contaminants. So we're in a growth phase in the department. It's exciting to continue to build. I'll be sure to keep all of you updated here as we continue to do that.
Thank you, Director. We're going to move on to the public comment. In accordance with the public appearance guidelines and the Commission Policy Manual, individuals wishing to address the Commission must complete a public appearance card and will be allowed up to 3 minutes for their presentation. This is accomplished through pre-registration for this meeting pursuant to the meeting notice. Those not pre-registered will be allowed up to 2 minutes to present. Documents distributed as part of the meeting will be considered public documents and are subject to provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. The public comment time provides the public an opportunity to speak. The Commission will not necessarily respond to the public comments. I will call by last name or by last 4 digits of the respective telephone number those who have pre-registered to speak. Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing each speaker and will be given a 1 minute and a 30-second warning relative to your time. Once each has presented, I will ask if there's anyone else who wishes to speak during public comment. Online participants will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number, and each person should clearly state their name and who they represent and will have 2 minutes to speak. And again, Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing. We have 1 pre-registered public comment. B. Freelander. If you are present, I see that you're virtual. If you'd like to unmute your microphone, and you'll be given 3 minutes. Oh, B, we can't hear you. Not yet. Not yet. One second, B. We still can't hear you.
Speaker.
So is the issue on our end with the speakers?
They're not here, they're online. Let me see if I can unmute her here. Ask her to go ahead.
B, can you give a mic check?
Can she hear us?
I believe she can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you now. Thank you for being patient.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll turn the phone down. And please raise your hand if you stop being able to hear me. All right, so can we start now?
You can start, yeah. And the problem was on our end.
Chair Chow. Okay, thank you, Chair Chow and Commissioners. My name's Bea Friedlander. I represent Attorneys for Animals, and I'm speaking today on camps, the care of farm animals. I'm specifically referencing policy number 8 that was adopted by the commission last month. And at the beginning, it says that the commission has, quote, the responsibility to define generally accepted agricultural management practices, end quote. And during my remarks, I ask that you take into account this responsibility when in deciding how to approve these GAMs. We submitted comments, Attorneys for Animals, along with the animal law section and animal equality. I would urge the commission to not just adopt the draft GAMs on the care of farm animals as presented, for the following reasons. Some of the practices are not supported by research and are, we believe, cruel. That would be for chickens and roosters, the beef trimming, the forced molding. There is not solid science. There is generally throughout these camps a lack of a thorough review, and as pointed out in our comments, in fact, some of the current science has been misquoted. We also believe that the commission needs to exercise its responsibility and not adopt these camps as presented, because they do not properly reflect Michigan's cage-free law. There is a lack of review of science in the areas of the impact of climate change. There is no change to the GAMs with regard to mink farms, even though they have been much in the news and there's been a problem with them in the last few years. And finally, we urge the commission to send back the draft because it does not take a position on ventilation shutdown, which we believe it should. Finally, I would point out that at the end of this recently adopted policy 8, it says, quote, MDR staff may request other public agencies, professional and industry organizations, and individuals to assist on Right to Farm Act issues. So, in summary, please, commissioners, exercise your responsibilities in these areas and have these GAMs redrafted and not just accepted as is. And please note that there are individuals, at least, as well as other organizations with whom MDR
B, that is your time. Thank you.
get a differing viewpoint on right to
Thank you. Two more, okay. I can't really see this screen. Angela, can you give me a number of somebody who wants to? Okay, Randy Wichler, would you like to come on for 2 minutes?
I would. Good morning. This is Randy Buchler from Shady Grove Farm in the Upper Peninsula. At the last meeting, I made you guys aware of a dispute in Centerville Township regarding mushroom production with a commercial operation. And I mentioned that there aren't any GAMPs or anything that protect or in any way define agriculture management practices for mushroom operations. Recently, I've been made aware of another potential dispute here in Marquette County with a local municipality and a commercial mushroom producer. And, I'm not talking about just mushrooms for food. I'm talking about the production of mushroom products that would help mitigate issues with soil, et cetera, that would be beneficial to all farms, no matter what the size. And I guess my concern is, in order to gain right to farm protection, one of the main criteria is to be compliant with the applicable GAMPs of your commercial operation. However, there's not a GAMP that applies to mushroom production. So it's unclear to myself and others that I've spoken with as to whether or not these mushroom farms fall into that protection of right to farm or not, because there isn't a GAMP that applies directly, even though they're compliant with being commercial in nature and meet the definition of a farm, have a farm product. Mushrooms are mentioned in the definitions in the Right to Farm Act itself. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that there needs to be clarification made somewhere for mushroom operations that are commercial in nature, to be proactive and request a GAMPS compliance inspection almost doesn't make sense because there's not a GAMP that pertains to that. So maybe there does need to be a GAMP that pertains to mushroom operations, even though there are really no detrimental effects of mushroom production. So hopefully this conversation can be continued amongst you guys and the GAMPS committees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Randy. All right, and I see another hand raised. I believe it was last name Rogers. Mr. or Mrs. Rogers, Brian, would you like to speak for 2 minutes?
Yes, I would.
Go ahead.
I just want to, I'm Brian Rogers in Leelanau County. We're in Centerville Township. I spoke at the last meeting. We are in dispute, and we have kind of gotten to a point where we're just kind of waiting to see what happens. I'm really interested in seeing what's going to hash out with the GAMPs, referring to mushrooms. And I think it's an appropriate topic to do some more investigating. Mushrooms have been mentioned, and also there is a history of mushroom growing, but it is evolving and changing. And I think that it's appropriate at this point to, just like livestock, you can't compare chickens to goats. What are we talking about here, and what are the consequences that would be faced by having a mushroom farm? I believe that there are opportunities to actually improve the GAMPS program, even in the sense of remediation that could be applied through these up-and-coming mushroom farms and the evolving of mushroom technology. The other part of it is what kind of obstacles are current mushroom farmers going through and up and coming mushroom farms in being accepted by their townships and the regulations on their farms. And where do we
Brian,
fit in?
that's
I
your
guess
time.
is kind of the question.
Thank you. All right, I see
Thank
another. No problem. I see another hand raised. Ryan Labachi. I'm sorry if that's not how you pronounce your name.
Yakovaci.
Yakovaci.
Thank you. I'll take my 2 minutes, and thank you, commissioners, and previous comments. I'm very excited that MSU is on regenerative agriculture. That's so exciting to hear within the state of Michigan. So thank you for that. My name is Ryan Yakovaci. I'm the co-founder of Myconaut. We're a mushroom company based out of Marquette, Michigan. We're located in our incubator program up here called the Smart Zone at Innovate. I also sit on the indoor ag educational program at NMU as an advisory committee member. I've held several licenses with the state of Michigan, from medical cannabis to wild mushroom foraging to selling forest products to medical first responding. I work with the state a lot on licensing and so forth. Very familiar with this stuff. And our company recently, we are waiting to hear back from the National Science Foundation on our SBIR for PFAS solution using fungi. And we're working with the farm down in Brighton that recently was shut down by Eagle. This is going to be a huge issue, and I'm sure the commission is well aware. And there are affordable solutions that can be developed. We are working to develop that. Research and development takes a long time to build into regulation and to develop these business plans around this to ensure efficacy and safety. In the meanwhile, as a small business startup, we're looking to get cash flow. Culinary mushrooms are an easy way for companies to get cash flow. We've run into an issue with our city zoning that I was told we are the same as a hog farm, but we are different than a corn farm. We're looking to grow mushrooms in a 40-foot shipping container, completely controlled and nothing out of the realm and no polluting issues of normal industrial type stuff. That was confusing to me, and it actually has caused quite a hiccup in our business plan. And so I'm more than willing to help in any way, shape, or form with the commission to develop good GAMPs on this practice and share practices, schematics, research, whatever is needed. I want to offer up my services and time to ensure this benefits all.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. Is there anybody else online or in the room? There'll be another chance for public comment at the end of the meeting. All right. We're going to have a presentation by Jamie Zameko Summers for the Food and Ag Investment Fund request.
People who write the GAMS initially, or no? Well, maybe we didn't, but we should.
Yeah, let's do that today.
It's obviously an issue.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm pleased to have one food and ag investment project to present this month to you, and it is for a project with Quality Roasting. This company created a joint venture in 2017 with the DeLong Company, and they have processing facilities that produce crude soybean oil and Exceller meal. In 2019, right? Yeah, 2019, they put their first facility in Reese here in Michigan, and that has been very successful. So they are looking to expand upon that. So this project is about a $15.8 million project and will create a total of 5 jobs. And they will be working to add equipment and a facility that will take that soybean oil and further process it, making it ready or food grade oil for, I think, primarily the food processing industry. With this project, they are currently utilizing about 625 truckloads or I should say currently ship about 625 truckloads or 6.3 million gallons of crude oil out of their facility in Reese. And they utilize about 2.5 million bushels of soybeans from the region, which is really critical for our soybean producers across the state. So this expansion into food grade refining will allow them to grow their crush capacity and will allow them to hopefully bring on as much as an additional 3.25 million bushels per year into that facility, again, which will help with the local basis, which is very important for producers to get the most value and really helps them when they can drive a short distance to get their crops to a further processing. So with this, I did mention they will create 5 new jobs in Reese, which is a small community in the Thumb area. They will also provide training for these, and they offer training in the process management, laboratory work, and food industry, and will provide that both in-house and externally. So the recommendation from MDARD is a performance-based grant of $150,000 for quality roasting. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Aaron from Quality Roasting to talk a bit more about the project and the importance of this project to the state of Michigan, the soybean industry, and the local economy.
Thank you, Jamie. Yes, Aaron Davis, I'm the president of Quality Roasting here in Michigan. We have had great success with not only the operation in Michigan, but developing relationships both with local and state government and with local community members that come and sell their soybeans to us. So we're very happy to be in Michigan and look forward to having the opportunity to grow our business and keep our business here in Michigan and provide more jobs for the local community in the Thumb, as it wanted to do. Yes, and I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the project that you may have.
Have you had any challenges in sourcing soybeans, or do there need to be more in the system, or?
Not sourcing them, it's the price that we have to pay for them, which is great for the farmers. We've got a neighbor to the west of us that needs a lot more than we do, so we good competition there for the local soybeans.
And where's the market for the food grade oil?
Yeah, food grade oil would go into the Detroit area, Chicago, and into Indiana, or some food manufacturers. So we do everything in bulk, and that would be what the refinery would do as well. Vegetable oil would be ready to eat out of a bulk truck, whether it is bottled or used as an ingredient in a bakery or salad dressings or other processed foods.
Would you please give a little bit more detail about the technologies that you use to further refine?
Absolutely. So in our crush operation, we do an expeller press. So we are not using any hexane or other solvents to extract the oil. We use heat and pressure. With that, we get a very clean crude oil that does not have too many gums in it. So it's the process allows us to go right into a bleaching step. So we use a naturally mined bleaching earth that's very absorbent and porous. So we mix that with the crude oil to take the color out, which is phospholipids, moisture, and any other meal particles that may be still in the crude oil. From there, we filter the bleaching earth out, and then we send it to a deodorizer, which is the process of removing any of the odors. There's a nice nutty smell to our crude oil that comes from the roasting of the soybeans. And we remove that through a distillation process. So lots of heat to vaporize any of the free fatty acid or non-volatiles that are still in the oil. And then from there, it's ready to eat after it's cooled down, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What share of your production is Michigan grown soybean?
Currently, all of our soybeans are sourced from Michigan.
And is there any renewable energy sources in your project?
As far as renewable, no, but we do have a lot of heat economizing. So we use a good majority of the equipment is just the economizing of the heat that we put into the product. So we do very little cooling on the back end for it.
What does that mean? Are you
We're using the-
capturing it and using it elsewhere?
We're exchanging heat from the outgoing oil with the incoming oil. So once the system is up and running, the hot oil is used to preheat the cooler oil coming in.
What is the footprint of the facility?
Yeah, about 12,000 square feet.
Okay.
So,
And
and
you-
about 80 feet tall, the tower.
And you're going to expand to, are you,
This will be a brand new building on our site, so it'll be a separate process building on our existing site. So one will have that existing mill, and then this new building will be standalone.
and so tell me what you're going to do in the new building.
Oh, so this is where we'll be bleaching the oil and deodorizing. So the refining equipment will be in this new building.
Okay, and currently you're not refining at all?
We are not, no.
Where do you send that then?
Yeah. So a lot of it goes into the bio fuels industry. So we ship it all out via truck and by rail actually now to W2 Fuels and Adrian. And I think a lot of it is going down to Indiana as well
Okay,
via rail.
so you'll be able to keep more of the processing in Michigan?
Correct, yep. So it'll all be, the crude oil will be refined on our own site. So we're eliminating that extra trucking to go to a processor from Reese.
Okay.
And what do you do with the byproducts or the co-products?
Yeah, so the one byproduct is the spent bleaching earth, which we filter out. And that actually, we were able to put that back onto the meal. It's minerals and fat, so it's can go back into a feed ingredient. And then the other byproduct is a soybean oil distillate from removing the free fatty acids from the oil. And that goes to a company that further refines it. There's tocopherols and vitamin E that is in that they extract.
The meal is produced on site there?
Correct. That
Okay.
is currently what soybean meal that we make.
And is it shipped in-state only, or is it?
Some of it goes into Ontario, and then some into Indiana, but majority of it stays in Michigan. And we sell that direct to feed manufacturers, and it's used as a feed ingredient for livestock.
Do you feel that there, in 5 new jobs, do you feel there are the labor in Reese to?
We do. We actually have been very fortunate to have some great younger employees that are very willing to learn. This is not a job that there's many people that have that experience in the area in Michigan at all. So we've been very fortunate to find individuals that are willing to learn. It's very hands-on. It's very mechanical. This particular new process will require more of engineering skills and some lab experience. So, with
What kind of
university, yeah.
salary or hourly do these new workers expect?
Sure. So at operator, I believe we are starting at $18 to $22 an hour. The lead engineer, we would probably be at 110.
Your facility in Wisconsin, is there any interaction between the two, or are you totally separate?
No, we live the same thing every day. For each facility is the same.
Okay.
And this particular refinery we actually have in Wisconsin already, so we are just mirroring that exact project. Our sales teams are the same. Our office staff is the same. It all comes out of our Wisconsin headquarters. So our production leads are also in Wisconsin, so they come over here quite often to help with maintenance and larger capital projects.
So you're strictly production in Michigan then?
Correct.
Okay.
And then we do have soybean procurement is here in Michigan as well. So our site manager does do all the local purchasing of soybeans from farmers.
And you have 2 different oil lines, like a conventional and an organic.
Correct. So we have 2 programs right now. I actually just announced a third a couple weeks ago. So we buy conventional soybeans, organic soybeans, and now hyoleic soybeans as well. So we will have 3 different oils that we'll be able to refine this new process site.
3, you say?
3, all soybean based, so GMO soybeans, organic soybeans, and then high oleic.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Are the high oleic GMOs as well?
They are GMO, correct. Yeah. There are some varieties that are non-GMO. I think they're just starting to get those into Michigan plots to see how the yields are in Michigan.
There is a variety of GM soybean that produces more stearidonic acid as a precursor to omega-3 fatty acids. Is that grown in Michigan?
I am not aware of that one.
So the high oleic soybeans, do you have a sufficient supply, or are you planning on growing that?
Yeah, so we started our program this year, so it'll be for 2024 harvest. We started with a 10,000 acre agreement that we would purchase, and I think we're already all local. Yep, and we are up to 8 as of yesterday, so we are very close to reaching our goal for the procurement for next year.
Do you think you'll be able to expand that?
I hope so. The seed manufacturer is the one that will have to dictate that, if they have enough seed supply for next growing season. But they promised us 10,000 acres of seed, and we're almost done buying those. So if they have more, I think we'll be able to purchase it. The high oleic is not only good, or has proven to be successful in the food grade vegetable oil, but we're doing a lot of different testing and trials to see how it can benefit dairy cows as well on the meal side. So very positive feedback so far.
What are the performance milestones for the grant that you have to complete?
Yeah, I can. So the performance milestones are typically pretty similar across, and it would be construction of the facility, installation, and operation of the equipment, and then all pertinent either local, state, and federal permits for the facility, or the milestones that would be set up if this is approved.
Construction, installation, licensing,
Yep.
permitting.
Questions? Any motion to approve this investment fund request?
I move to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, and
Thank you very
thank
much.
you for buying so much Michigan soybeans.
Yeah, keep growing them, please. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, yep, we're gonna move on to our GAMS presentations.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mike.
It is great to be in front of you guys again. As you may remember, back in September, we introduced the proposed draft 2024 revisions to the Generally Accepted Ag Management Practices for your considerations. Now, today, we are back to answer any questions if you had a chance to review them, take any sort of direction or comment to you guys for the next coming year as far as we continue to revise and edit the GAMPs. Under the Right to Farm Act, under 286-473, Section 2, or Section 1, excuse me, it states that the Generally Accepted Ag Management Practices shall be reviewed annually by the Commission. So these are your documents. The advisory committees are there as subject matter experts to revise, edit, and provide any sort of recommendations for changes in those GAMPs. If you guys decide in any way to not adopt any of those recommended changes, then we would fall back upon the last approved Generally Accepted Ag Management Practices, in this case, the 2023 GAMPs. So with that, at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Madonna Benjamin to step up and sit with me here for a moment and answer any questions. I'm going to quickly kind of just summarize some of the changes that are proposed in there, and then hand the floor back over to you guys to answer any questions of Dr. Benjamin and I. Across the Care Farm Animal GAMPs, across all the sections, there is now a section identifying pharmaceutical use. really for a veterinary client-patient relationship being recommended and identifying that as far as use of pharmaceuticals. In laying chickens, there is added language to discuss housing densities and cage-free egg production, and that's on page 68. We added a rooster management section on 69, expanded beak trimming management on page 70, expanded transportation for slaughter management on page 71, and added language for housing management, and that is continued on page 72 through 74. At the very end of the GAMP, we added a new section, an addendum, identifying that other GAMPs, state statutes, federal regulations that apply to common questions as far as Carafarm animal GAMPs to try to help some provide description and identification, especially with some of the public comment that had received last year and some of the direction from the commission as well. So at that time, that's about the extent of the quick summary. I'll hand it back over to you guys for any questions of Dr. Benjamin.
Well, I guess I'd like to bring up the debeaking portion. Can you explain what changes are happening with the debeaking?
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
I was gonna bring it up, but I think the page numbering is a little
Okay.
different on our sheets there, Mike.
The changes did come from recent recommendations for care of laying hens from the United Egg Producers, and Dr. Swanson transferred input from the United Egg Producers into this document, applicable wording into this document. I just want to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Madonna Benjamin, and I am a veterinarian. My specialty is swine veterinary medicine. I'm also board certified with the American College of Animal Welfare. From a welfare perspective, also Dr. Janice Swanson is an applied ethologist and well established on numerous boards as an advisor, including the United Egg Laying Association. Okay, so the changes that she wrote was to prevent outbreaks of cannibalism and aggressive form of pecking that can cause increased mortality within a flock. Beaks may be trimmed using a hot blade knife or by rounding the end of the beak using infrared technology. So that changes from the sharp tips, and there's quite a bit of research that would demonstrate that the hot blade is less painful and less likely to cause, I think they're called neuromas. So that would be a constant pain that's similar to the pain that would occur from an amputation. That's a neuroma. And that no more than 1/3 of the beak should be removed, and less than 1/3 is more desirable. So the less, the better. And of course, all of this is to reduce, especially in group or loose laying hen situations, is to reduce the aggression that occurs between chickens. And we know that there is, when we place them in open arrangements, typically the mortality is increased unless these kinds of implementations are put into place. It also mentions trained workers, and that was from before. And then there's a comment on in young chicks prior to 10 days of age. It's well known that the younger, that if any invasive surgery is to occur in livestock and in companion animals, the younger the better, because the faster healing and faster tissue growth.
So I'm not super familiar with it, but is it standard practice to do as a preemptive surgery, or is it something that if there's a problem in the flock then and aggressive behavior, then you start to?
Yeah, it's preemptive. Because identifying the aggressor ahead of time is not really possible. And there are multiple reasons for aggression. It could be that something Dr. Janice Sigford and Dr. Swanson can talk about this in eloquence, but it could be something as uncommon as a different feather color, something that's unique about the feather that captures the chicken's attention, and they tend to mob. So once that that chicken has been pecked or hen-pecked, then there's continuous of that chicken. Then the chicken doesn't eat. Not only does it not have good insulation, but it will not eat, it won't drink, it'll just lie tucked up.
How many chickens like are victimized, I guess, is a way to put it, by other chickens? Is it like 1% or less than 1% of the population?
No, I think it's
or is-
more.
It's more?
I would have to look up those numbers for you, but I do know there are comparisons between the different housing methods. And one of the factors that are measured is pecking, or destruction of the bird from pecking. And then so there's the welfare aspect of the bird, but then I'm very verbose, so tell me when to shut up.
No, good. I think it's important for us to have
Okay.
a deep conversation about this.
And then there's also the carcass merit, right? Because every carcass on the line is evaluated for bruising or any kind of contusions. And then there's an audit. If there's a high percentage of bruising or contusions, then they failed that portion of the audit. I'm not saying they failed the audit, but they would fail that portion of the audit.
I feel like it's telling, and it's how agriculture is. It's like we want a cage-free environment for the birds, but then it leads to another problem. And I find that with a lot of agriculture, there's always going to be a trade-off, and I think this is a really good example of that.
Yes, I mean, if we go back to the 50s and 60s, that's why birds were put in cages, and then but it circles back, and but the onus is on researchers and groups throughout Michigan State to try to find solutions for it. That's part of our job.
I hope in the future we find other solutions.
Yes, yeah. Well, for small backyard birds, they have different aprons and little jackets that people have made to protect the birds from pecking.
Would you please give some detail about the revisions with regard to pharmaceutical use in animals, and whether is it aligned with FDA's?
That part I should know
veterinary-
offhand. And from the pharmaceutical aspect, a VCPR was put into place in January of 2021, I believe so. That's a veterinary client-patient relationship, and that's part of a USDA process. So it started out that it was only antibiotics used for growth promotion that were removed, and removed from all feeds, all livestock feeds, and that to use an antibiotic, an antibiotic that's also used by humans, the producer had to have a prescription. So thus, the veterinary client-patient relationship was enforced because that reduced the access to in-feed medications. The next step, USDA's next step, was to address water medications and then injectables as well. So antibiotics that are used by humans, such as penicillins, tetracyclines, lincomycins, or lincosamides, are no longer over the counter. They have to have a prescription for that.
Is there any overlap? For example, when you mentioned that there are antibiotics used for growth promotion that are banned, could farmers still make a case that they're being used for prophylactics or for therapeutic purposes?
Absolutely, no, they cannot use it for prophylactics in terms of preventive measures. They can only use it for treatment measures.
Okay, interesting.
And I'll give you an example. So a growth promoting level might be 20 ppm in swine, but a treatment level is 300 ppm. That's a big difference in cost. So you use it for treatment.
Yeah, interesting. And this sounds more detailed even than the FDA Veterinary Feeds Directive, the USDA regulations. Is that right? Because this seems to go above and beyond the FDA.
No, that fits in with the Veterinary Feeds
does?
Directive. Yes, yes. You're right. It was the Veterinary Feeds Directive, and now it's continued to include injectable antibiotics. Now, injectable antibiotics June 2023, but so they may not be part of the 2024. I can't remember. Okay. We'll have to review that. It may just be timing. Okay.
Thank you.
We received some public comment about mink farming. Is this where we can talk about testing?
Oh, mink farming.
Mink farming,
Yes,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of alarmed reading the public comment about COVID and other human-animal disease that can happen, and I think it would be smart of us to consider, the biological hazard that mink farming can have, and to be stringent about testing. And what are your opinions on that, and how would that affect the industry?
Right, I don't have any opinions on the testing, but I certainly appreciate the work that's been done. And USDA and CDC just published in August 2023, they just published biosecurity recommendations for mink. So that says separation between humans and the mink, and then how the carcasses will be disposed of. As far as testing, I don't have an opinion. But Dr. John Easley, who is a recognized expert on mink and biosecurity and mink diseases, is on our committee. So we'll take that back to them. So in particular, your question for testing is testing of humans and mink?
I think mostly it's either a question of all deceased mink, or if they had been showing signs, what level of testing would be required upon the death of an animal.
So so for example, oftentimes we use surveillance testing. Is that what you're asking?
I'm not well versed in it, but I'm assuming that if there's a death in the population, I might like to see some COVID testing for that, or just a broad spectrum test of what happened, almost an autopsy. So that way, anything that could potentially spread to human or to the rest of the population, there was more of a nip it in the bud kind of situation.
Okay, so how about if we, I'm making a deal. So how about if we go back and we talk about it? Because one of my concerns about measuring once there's mortality is it might be too late.
Right.
So we'll go back to the committee and talk about what's available and what's.
Yeah, and I don't know
Yeah.
the right answer, but I think for the interest of everyone that we would like to be proactive about potential new pandemics. I don't want to go through that again, kind of thing.
Yes, and we can help to provide the wording. The surveillance comes through USDA. Thank you, Michael. And we can provide wording or suggestions or awareness. We have some ideas on areas that we think are going to be very, very important from a zoonotic perspective and increasing awareness, and we'd like to take that back to our committees on that. And one of them today is a really good example of high amounts of single-day precipitation, right? And the outcomes of that. Yeah.
And in the same vein of biosecurity, there's the cervid issues around chronic wasting disease. And the public comments we received talked about double fencing in order to keep nose-to-nose contact, and also making escape harder.
Yes, he's so good. So we talked about this. We started this discussion on the fencing, and there's actually quite a bit going on with chronic wasting disease. The comments on chronic wasting disease were addressing farm deer, but of course we know that there's CWD in the field as well, and so we have a really strong team within Michigan State covering between the epidemiology and infectious disease and DNR that manages the fencing aspect of that. So we're going to add at least one person to our GAMPS committee to help us address and provide the right language for farm-raised deer. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone have other questions for the care of farm animals section of the GAMS? So just to recap, we're gonna, on the committee, there's gonna be somebody focused on chronic wasting disease. And I think with the beak issue, it seems to me that it's the only method right now just to stop the pecking, and then the mink issue. And you're going to add for this GAMPS or for the following GAMPS, there will be more language about surveillance.
We need time, so
We
the
need time.
following GAMPS.
Following GAMPS.
Ultimately, it is your document. You may choose to have
Yeah.
language added. My recommendation from my experience is to allow the advisory committee time to carefully craft that language to ensure that we don't unnecessarily add any unintended consequences with that. Some of the things with CERVID that needs to be recognized is that in Michigan, those are permitted operations through the DNR, and the right to farm and the GAMPS don't preempt it, other state and federal language and requirements. So there's a lot of things there that go above and beyond anything that right to farm and the GAMPS can possibly do, because that is a whole different set of standards that they have to meet that's outside of MDARD.
And this is maybe off GAMPS a little bit, but what is the purpose of cervid farming? I've never seen a cervid farm, and I know there's a lot of deer, and hunting is a huge way of life in Michigan. Why are people? I'm just curious. Why are people growing deer?
I don't make that kind of money, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trophy, or is there other people growing? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Lazy hunters.
Lazy hunters.
There you
All right. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin.
You're welcome.
You guys may choose to go through and vote on them individually, or you can do it all as blanket at the end. It's totally up to your choice.
I'd like to do them individually.
I have a few questions about, so we heard from public comment regarding mushrooms. What is, what's the process for evaluating new areas or recognizing, oh, the GAMPS doesn't cover something?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually in the commission policy manual. I don't have that directly in front of me, but it does describe that MDARD can bring forth to the commission the identification, the need of new GAMPS, and then the commission would then vote on it. That would then be taken to the chair or to the dean of the College of Ag and Natural Resources, and then they would appoint a chair, just as they do for all of the GAMPS. That chair would then be in charge of forming an advisory committee to form a new set of GAMPS. With that, we've heard the public comment, and with that regarding mushrooms, the Right to Farm Act is again about the mitigation of nuisance and nuisance conditions, and the generally accepted ag management practices are management practices identified to mitigate nuisance concerns. So that is my thought in response to some of that.
But I can see how a mushroom production would want to have the protections.
Absolutely. We would have to identify standards to mitigate, concerns that arise from mushroom production, and they need to be based on science. And if those exist, then absolutely, I think there's a foundation there to build a set of GAMPS, but that would have to be identified, and that would fall upon the chair.
So our role as commission we would be the ones that start that? Is that what you're saying?
I would have to go back and review the commission policy manual, but I believe MDARD makes the recommendation to the commission. Though at the same time, the GAMPS are owned by the commission, so if the commission so directs, we can get that ball rolling.
I think we should too. I don't know if this is the right time. Maybe at the end of this GAMPS presentation, we can talk about that.
Sure.
If that's all right with you, or we can.
You mean add it onto the end of the agenda?
I was gonna add it to the end of this agenda, but if Mike, if you don't mind, can we talk a little bit more about? You don't have the policy manual, I guess, in front of you or via memory, but what
if we wanted to make a motion to add
Well,
a
certainly a
mushroom-
path here is the department, like we can go and present you all, the commission, right, all the steps that go into this, right, spell out in a little more detail what this process looks like and conceptualize this, so I think it's a little bit clearer. Lay out those next steps of, if the commission wishes to start that process moving forward, fully understand what all it means and how the pieces come together.
Yeah. I like that. I also, since I've been on the commission for 2 years now, have heard several public comments throughout my time, and including from the past commission chair regarding an evaluation in regards to climate change. And so, has anything happened in that respect, or does that need to come from us directly as well?
No, absolutely. As you had said, the commissions in the past have identified that as being a key concern for the advisory committees to continue to review and adopt. And I can tell you from ones that I get to sit on, that is something that is continuously being discussed and trying to evaluate how do we incorporate these things. Because, again, it all has to be based on science. And, so there has to be standards there to identify how do we mitigate that, especially when you look at, extreme rainfall events. And we get that information from NOAA, which they look at that as far as the past, I believe, 10 and 30 year, climate change. So this stuff's changing fast, and we look to other experts that compile that data and then evaluate and try to figure out how best to utilize that. Especially some of our waste storages, we take our standards from other state and federal entities and then utilize those standards as far as the standards that is utilized. So it's a slow moving process, and a lot of it is absolutely a lot to try to figure out, how do we do that? And how do we do that for all agriculture? How do we do that for 10 chickens in the backyard or 5,000 cows and hold them to the exact same standard? So absolutely, I hear you. We continue to hear you, and we will continue to be working on that and evaluating and trying to figure out how best we can do that.
And Mike, maybe as a follow-up on that, at our meeting in September, you did a great job of kind of laying out the process by which the committees are formed and membership is recruited. But I think I would just encourage as the years go on that we continue to kind of broadcast that opportunity to different stakeholders to participate in that process.
Absolutely, we will do that. Thank you. Okay. Well, then at this time, I would like to ask Jerry May, the site selection chair, come on up, and as he's coming up, I will quickly go through and just identify some of the changes that were expanded or identified in the site selection camps.
Before you start your presentation, what is there a motion to approve the Care Farm Animals Camp?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners. Across the site selection GAMPs, to remove some of the ambiguity and confusion that resided in there, the advisory committee had elected to remove the definition of livestock production facilities. This largely differentiated between operations that were under 50 animal units and over 50 animal units. Instead, we had identified some of the necessary components that are required for these operations that existed that are over 50 animal units or 50,000 pounds of live animal weight versus all operations. And in doing so, there was several changes all throughout the GAMP to reflect that change in definition. In addition, there's a couple new definitions that were added as well, identifying alternative management plans, community relation plans, livestock facility, since then we'd remove that definition, and odor management plan. These are some components that are historically always been required of an operation to identify, to mitigate nuisance potential, but wasn't well defined within the GAMP, and that came across as part of our annual review. And so those are definitions that were added. With that and with those changes, updated tables throughout the GAMP. And with that, turn it over to Jerry May to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Once a site is granted GAMS compliance, they're protected under Michigan Right to Farm from nuisance complaints. What happens if there is still a nuisance complaint? Does Right to Farm just cover them, or does MDARD come back and do another inspection? to make sure that
I'll answer that.
process than-
Yeah, if we had an operation that went through the site selection and received a final conformance, so they've already gone through site suitability, they passed through the appeal period, they received approval to construct, we've gone through several rounds of inspections, and then they've built it, and then we've gone out and then issued final conformance. Then afterwards, if we received a complaint, what we will do is go back through and identify if they're following the plan that was presented to MDARD throughout. And then if they're not, then we would go through our protocol, which identifies that we have to be on site within 7 business days and give them 30 days to either submit a plan on what they're going to do and when they're going to have it done by, or to mitigate the concerns as identified.
Another part that feels kind of like a gray area to me is the additional considerations and how much weight is applied to those, and how they affect the GAMP certification.
Okay, those are standards. And it's interesting that you mentioned that today, because on Monday we were reviewing the GAMPs, and there is some consideration or concern about terming that as additional considerations. And so I believe for the next 2025 that will be termed different, and probably located in a different part of the GAMPs themselves. But it is interesting, as we talked about it, we weren't at that time coming up with the term that we liked, and so there was kind of a aha moment that maybe they put in additional considerations because they had the same discussion we did. But those are GAMPs there. They are standards that the farm must comply with.
Okay. What do you think the spirit of the additional considerations is? Like, what's the purpose? I know that they're this part of the standards, but why do you think they were separated into additional considerations subcategory?
You're asking me to answer a question for people that wrote this 20 years ago. I think the spirit of those considerations, though, is to protect the community and the environment and the surrounding neighbors to the facility. And so they still are standards, like I've said, and as Mike and his staff go through the request for review, they are considered. They are part of the checklist, and so they are what I call a must standard.
Okay. I guess Eagle's involvement in the GAMPs. I don't think we've had a presentation from anyone from Eagle. I think just like in the future, I'd like someone from Eagle to be present if there is like a dispute like we had earlier this year. I think that was something that I would have liked to see a little bit more of. I don't feel like I'm an expert, and especially not a scientific expert on those kind of issues like groundwater. And so I think when we do have issues, to have more of the committee, of the site selection committee present for the meetings.
We absolutely, well, the Right to Farm Act does define areas where recommendations are taken in Department of Environmental Quality. Now Eagle is identified in there, but we do have representative membership in the advisory committee from the Water Resource Division as well as the Air Quality Division. So both of them do provide representation and membership in the advisory committee, but absolutely, if there's any sort of questions that you'd like to see answered, we can work on having them answered from representation.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the 2023 GAMPS site selection as presented?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next we'll have a presentation of the manure management and utilization.
Yes, and unfortunately, our chair has since retired. And I am unable to procure representation in the short period of time because that was at the end of this last month. So I'd like to share a few words on Dr. Safferman, and then I can run through and do my best to answer any questions you may have. But Dr. Safferman has conducted research on treatment trains to minimize and treat waste, including those originating from animal agriculture and food processing. The conversion of high-energy waste to biogas that serves as a renewable energy source, and novel reactor designs, such as anaerobic membrane and fluid bed reactors. He led the development of modeling and evaluating techniques of anaerobic digestion systems, including empirically screened feedstock to estimate energy potential, biogas potential assays, and conducting bench-scale treatability testing, evaluating farm-scale technologies, and developing decision support guidance. Dr. Safferman has authored over 92 publications and is a nationally recognized expert on phosphorus removal. On a personal note, I was personally a student of Dr. Safferman. He was a professor of mine, and one had taken me under his wing, and I worked for him researching different mediums of waste, of phosphorus removal through iron, and we're doing that through wastewater. And he is a tremendous asset, a steady hand, intelligent voice with just wealth of experience that we are absolutely going to miss. So wishing Dr. Safferman an incredible retirement that is well deserved. Across the manure management GAMPs, we had updated language, and I guess to take a two-second time out, a lot of this comes from requests and recommendations from MDARD as part of the process. While not only you guys provide comment as things that you like to see, MDARD will go through and identify necessary or areas that we would like some additional clarification or different additional language on. This really came this last year with the changes that you're seeing here with clarification under stockpiling. What's the difference between stockpiling and staging? Those terms are often used interchangeably, but has very different ramifications as far as how those practices are managed to mitigate nuisance. And obviously manure storage, manure transport, manure utilization is some of our most highly complained or nuisance potential. So some of the language that you see in here is to try to help further provide some description in there as we continue to try to figure out exactly where that line of demarcation is. The other language in there is to identify the exclusion of non-polluted runoff under runoff control and wastewater management, and really trying to direct farms, hey, wherever possible, if you can redirect roof water, for example, out of your storages, you can better maintain for when we have these extreme rain events, talking about climate change, so that you can utilize your storage where you needed it the most. And so that was actually one of the areas that we've identified in talking about climate change. What's something that we can do? Well, let's redirect where possible. So that was one of the changes in there and the reasoning for it.
Any questions or discussions? Is there a motion to approve the manure management and utilization GAMS for 2023?
Actually, I did have a question.
Oh, you do? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry. This is very interesting when you talk about the differences between the language for stockpiling versus staging manure. Can you please give a little bit more detail about that?
I got to be careful not to go completely down that train. Yeah, so when we have operations that look to move manure from either it's the livestock facility where the livestock are originating or their storage, quite often they will transport and stage the manure on the edge of a field, for example, or maybe on the farmstead itself on a particular location or pad. The language in there describes some different management practices that you can do that. For example, if you may have it on a particular location uncovered for up to 6 months, covered for up to 12 months. Well, what's the difference then? Because staging doesn't sound like something that should possibly occur under that sort of timeline versus stockpiling is something that we're intending to occur on that sort of timeline. And then the language in there goes on to discuss some of the management practices to prevent runoff and setbacks from surface water, wells, so on. So that's kind of, in a 30,700 mile per hour overview, like some of the difference there that we're hoping to try to differentiate. Because while we may go out there and tell a guy, hey, you really can't have it here. He goes, oh, I'm just staging it. Well, how long has it been here, sir?
Right.
What's your intention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was wondering what the environmental and human health consequences.
And that, absolutely, that's part of the thought behind it. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve this 2023 GAMS for manure management and utilization?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the GAMS for pest utilization and pest control. And Dr. John Wise, are you with us virtually? See you there. We can't hear you if you're speaking.
I believe you're still muted, John.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us. To quickly go through and identify some of the language that we've added, it was really in one location under alternative pest management techniques. We receive numerous complaints year to year on sound cannons, audible, different pest deterrent devices. And the language in there has historically always been very vague. And so we brought that back to the advisory committee, and Dr. Wise and his committee had brought forth the recommended changes to try to help identify mitigation techniques to deal with those sorts of concerns. And I'll turn it over to you guys for any questions for Dr. Wise.
What considerations have been put in place for kind of loud and nuisance generating pest management practices? What are
So the primary thing that we did is we engaged Dr. Catherine Lindahl from MSU, who's an ornithologist and who is doing research fairly actively in blueberry industry and cherries, looking at bird control, bird management kinds of practices. And what she did is she had written up a pretty thorough list of recommendations and alternatives in the Michigan Fruit Management Guide, which is an extension publication that MSU has. So one of the things we did is just try to include a more concise summary of that, but also a link in the GAMPS that allows people to go to the Fruit Management Guide and see in a much longer format her recommendations. And in her recommendations, she talks about the three different types of management strategies. One is the kind of noise equipment and systems that we're talking about here, but she lists out some others, including a repellent compound. Historically, if we go back many decades, there were some chemical control options, but many of them were either lethal or pretty harmful to the birds, but those have all basically been restricted by the US EPA. Now the only one that's remaining is a repellent, and it's actually, if my memory is correct, the repellent product is based on a grape juice extract, so it's quite benign. So mostly in her document, it's just educating alternatives to the one of concern brought up this morning.
And how exactly would that repellent compound be applied effectively?
It's typically applied with the same kind of application equipment that growers, and my experience is more with the fruit growers, the growers that are managing pests in blueberries and cherries and other fruit crops, could be grapes as well. I would say the predominant technology that's over the last 50 years is something called an air blast ground sprayer. But there are maybe some other techniques. I know that there are some solid set delivery systems out there, but that's the basic answer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm seeing no more questions.
I'll just comment that birds have always been a pest, but it seems increasingly so. We even had a flock of crows that came in and just destroyed a Honeycrisp block. So it's something that we're always fighting to find solutions, and it's typically you need a variety of solutions. So I appreciate the work, though.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the 2023 GAMS for pest utilization and pest control as presented?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have kind of some combined over here. Mike, you're covering some of them.
Well, we have irrigation water use GAMS. Young Sutdong is here to answer questions if you have any. However, there are no really changes across the GAMS except for updated advisory committee members, some references, and as annually, formatting language, those things and tweaks. Nutrient utilization GAMS, some proposed changes. We, again, don't have any proposed changes. However, Dr. Harrigan is retiring as well. And he, again, has been an absolute incredible asset with wealth of experience. And he has authored over 55 publications, 35 peer-reviewed articles, numerous extension bulletins and fact sheets, more than 300 presentations at county and regional field days and related activities, more than 40 out-of-state, national, and international talks. Has been a longtime member of ASABE and currently executive board member and past president of the Michigan Chapter Soil and Water Conservation Society. And I believe he has been chair since 2014 and serving member even before that. So again, another just tremendous blow and to the advisory committee with a wealth of experience, but I absolutely wish him the best in his retirement as well. The cranberry production GAMS also has no changes. Review and update of references only across web links, and Dr. Tim Miles was not able to join us today. And lastly, the farm market GAMS, Ryan Coffey-Hogue is present to answer any questions if you guys have any. However, again, with the major review that we had last year, no proposed changes for this year's draft GAMS.
Just for like a base of knowledge for us as commissioners, what are historically some of the nuisance complaints that these 4 GAMS protect against?
Oh, irrigation, really off-target drift, off-target management, where we have, sprayers over the road or, my favorite one was an individual had a garden in his backyard, had a small sprinkler, and it went over the property line and watered the neighbor's grass. That was a resulting complaint. So do those things. A lot of those is a lot more record-based, record management. The irrigation GAMS go through and identify, rate time application, take credit for, rainfall events. What is the crop's actual need? So that you're applying based on crop need and not just, hey, it's Tuesday, turn the sprinkler on, sort of thing. The nutrient utilization GAMS are a lot of the same. It's really documentation driven GAMS. What's your soil test? What's your crop yield? What your anticipated crop yield? What's your and then what's the nutrients that are needed to make up the difference? And then the storage, the method of application to ensure that you don't have again drift off the site. What sort of sensitive areas are you adhering to? The storage of the fertilizers, compost and byproduct applications as identified throughout the nutrient GAMS. So some of those generate complaints more than anything else as far as how producers may be applying other organic byproducts and are they following those sort of recommendations based on soil type and crop needs. I've never done anything with cranberry, so okay. I couldn't tell you what that come from. And then farm market, obviously.
I can imagine, with farm market, yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the remaining 2023 GAMS, the farm market, the irrigation, the cranberry, the nutrient, as presented.
Just 2024.
Oh, 2024. Let's amend all the times I said 2023 to 2024. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks for the presentation, Mike.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
All right, we have a final round for public comment. In accordance with the public appearance guidelines in the commission policy manual, individuals wishing to address the commission must complete a public appearance card and will be allowed up to 3 minutes for the presentation. This was accomplished through pre-registration for this meeting pursuant to the meeting notice. Those not pre-registered will be allowed up to 2 minutes to present. Documents distributed as part of the meeting will be considered public documents and are subject to provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. The public comment time provides the public an opportunity to speak, and the commission will not necessarily respond to the public comments. I will call by name or by the last 4 digits of the respective telephone numbers of those who are pre-registered to speak. Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing each speaker and will be giving you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning relative to your time limit. And anyone who's not pre-registered will be given 2 minutes. And again, Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing. I don't think we have any other pre-registered comments. And I'll leave the floor open for 30 seconds or so for anyone to identify themselves virtually. I see one hand raised. I can't read the name. We'll start.
2,
3. Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's
All right. Well, we'll start with hand raised 1. Randy Butchler again. Welcome back, Randy.
Thanks, Andy. I just wanted to thank Juliet for bringing up, for continuing the conversation regarding clarification on mushroom production. I just want to say it's my hope that that conversation can continue. And as you witnessed, Ryan Iacovacci is quite an expert in the mushroom arena. And I know that he's willing to have conversations and contribute to the conversation in a very productive manner. And I just want to see this conversation continue to move forward so that there is clarification for protecting these mushroom operations, because I think the benefits of mushroom production are so vast that they're not even fully understood by most. So thanks again for continuing that conversation today, and I hope it continues. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I know we don't always comment back, but I don't think we're going to drop the subject. So we'll continue looking at mushrooms again. Brian Rogers.
Oh, thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity here, and this has just been a great conversation. I mean, it really touches on a lot of the things that I think are stewing in a mushroom grower / mycology mindset with all these GAMPs and all these issues with everything, including our subject, which is just growing and maybe producing, maybe doing just a production of culinary mushrooms. But, however, looking into the scientific value of mushrooms is very important. I'm glad that was raised today. Thank you, Juliet. There has been, I think, progress today. What I want to touch on just briefly, because I have very little time, is, first of all, if we want to talk science, let's look at Paul Stamets' knowledge and studies. That has been proven. When we talk about soybeans, when we talk about compost management, when we talk about pesticides, when we talk about just GAMPs in the watersheds, we need to look towards the research that has been done and the science. It's already there. And I believe Ryan has brought up some good points as well. And he would probably be able to scientifically back things more than I could. I'm a practitioner. I study the subject and the knowledge of it. But I believe there is something that needs to be recognized and valued, and we need experts. So, let's work together on this. And I appreciate this whole venue for
Thank you
being able to.
Thank you for presenting. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Megan Tinsley.
Hi, yes, good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Sorry I can't be there in person today, but I appreciate the opportunity to just briefly comment here virtually. So I'm Megan Tinsley with the Michigan Environmental Council. I serve as a member on the Siding GAMPS Committee and the Manure Management Committee. And I just wanted to highlight something that is stated in Michigan's Adaptive Management Plan to reduce phosphorus loading into Lake Erie. And that is that the GAMPs are in place to provide both nuisance protection as well as being protective of the environment. And I would say that it's difficult for this to occur when we haven't moved the GAMPs beyond sometimes what their original intent was. So for siding, traditionally has considered nuisance odor, but it's not considering currently downstream water bodies that are out of compliance with E. coli TMDL, which we have in Michigan now on a statewide level because so many of our lakes, rivers, and streams are not meeting water quality standards for E. coli. But yet the Siding Committee does not consider, when looking at these livestock facilities, if they will add additional load to a water body that's already out of compliance. So I just wanted to flag that because in order to truly be protective of the environment as described in public-facing documents by the department, we need to adapt to changing conditions, updated science, and move to incorporate the GAMPs into considering things beyond what may just be a nuisance to things that are actually documented public health hazards as E. coli exceedances are. And I just wanted to put that out there for you today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pause for just a couple seconds for anybody else. All right. Meeting adjourned. Oh, a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.